Hi, this is Kathy Goodwin, and we are now at the second part of Module 4, the last module of your Cappuccino website makeover. Your follow-up autoresponders are probably one of the most important parts of your opt-in system. Remember that you're creating an opt-in to build relationships with your prospects. It's important to understand that your website rarely will be something people remember. Often I get requests as a copywriter for people to say, well, I want a memorable website. And when I'm working on your strategy, we have to understand that websites are rarely memorable. At best, your website is going to be something that people use as a basis to build a relationship. They rarely will say, oh, that was such a great site, I'm going to go back and visit it over and over again. You have to build that relationship so you come to them. They will not necessarily come to you. And the first way to do that is with your follow-up autoresponders. Here's a sample sequence. It's not perfect. It's not the only one. You have to test. What I have found is there are many examples of autoresponders all over the internet. What you have to do is figure out what works for you. I have found that standard sequences that I've seen very successful people use do not work for me and do not always work for my clients. So you have to decide what works. Test, retest, see what kind of reaction you get when you send these out. But before you do anything else, get them done. One of your assignments today is to write at least one autoresponder before you do much else. So the sequence is you write your freebie that we talked about before, and then you write your autoresponders, and then your page. So let's look at autoresponders. Your first one is day 0. 0 means that it arrives in their inbox virtually the same day that they place the order. So you say something like thanks, and make sure the link works. Download it right away, don't forget. Thank them for signing up and remind them to add your name to a safe list. We're not seeing as much about that because people are pretty savvy these days, but you might include a link to safe lists and remind them that blockers, those spam assassin things, are going to block your e-zine and they won't ever hear from you again. So you might want to make a note. Some people have a special email address only for things they subscribe to, so they avoid a lot of spam, and at the same time they get what they signed up for. So day 1 is the day after they signed up, and here this is very important. So many people say to me, well, oh, I'm glad you said this. Make sure it arrived. Give them some content. So we're like, oh, by the way, it's going to be at least 2 weeks before you get my first e-zine. I don't want you to wait. Here's an issue and give them an undated issue of a past e-zine if you are using an e-zine, or an article or a blog post, something like that. And I also encourage you to say something like, here is the link. In case you forgot, here's the link again. In fact, I send the link in every email address, because who wants to go back and dig through their mail? Make it easy for them to download your freebie. You created that freebie to be a sales document. Make sure they can read it. Day 3, 4, or 5, and again, this is up to you. So you're going to have a sequence that's kind of a rhythm every 3 days, but the exact number is going to depend on you and your market. So whatever day it is, your next message after you've made sure that everything arrived and is copacetic is to say something like, let's say with dog chewing as our example, that you are going to say, well, you'll notice that point number 2 of your freebie suggests, I would not use the word freebie with the client, say point number 2 of your workbook, the 5 tips to a chew-free dog, suggest that you bond with your dog and spend time with your dog doing nothing or doing fun things together. So you might notice that's point number 2. This is the #1 reason that dogs do not obey their owners. There has been no bonding time. They have not had a chance to relate in a positive way. And this is really important, and you go on about that. Not too long, but you might say, if you'd like to learn more, here is a blog post I wrote specifically on bonding with your dog, or here is a link to an article, and be sure to include the link to the article as well as the link to the freebie. At this point, you don't want to sell. The first message they get should not be about sales, although some people do, and it may or may not work. Then days 3, 4, 5, after, depending on how often you do this, let's say it might be day 5, day 6, day 8, whatever, you add another tip. But now you say, oh, by the way, if you're concerned about the way Rover is chewing up your sofa, I have an ebook that you can download at and such a place, and this is something people buy. Or you might say, I have a training course where I actually illustrate. I have videos showing exactly what to say and what tone to use to get a dog to stop attacking your vacuum cleaner. You might have that, and then you would that would be another example. And something like, oh, by the way, if you'd like this, this is good. It's nice if you can also say, something I've used with my own dog are these tips, and they're not something I wrote, something someone else wrote, and you could have a link to an affiliate product saying, here's something I've used myself very successfully. And then you go back and you do what we call rinse and repeat. You go back and say, oh, here's a freebie and here's more information, and then go back to another offer. And the ratio of freebies to sales depends a lot on your market. Some people have 2 or 3 freebie messages, or messages offering only free content and maybe to every one sales message. Again, some markets will have only sales messages, and some will have only free. You have to know them. So what to send them? Now, we've talked about what to send as a follow-up after they've signed in. But okay, they've opted in. Now you got to send them something, because they've opted in to get an ebook, which a freebie, but you want to keep in touch. So here's what to send them to maintain the relationship. Many people, most, especially if you're a coach, will send an e-zine. E-zines come in all variations. An e-zine is just an online newsletter. The most popular for coaches seems to be the 3-part form. And this is beyond our scope. I'll just mention it briefly here, which is part 1 is, hi, this is what I've been doing in the last week since I wrote to you. I'm vacationing in Maine. I'm surfing in the Caribbean, something like that, or snorkeling in the Caribbean. I guess you would surf in California, whatever. And then you'd have maybe a brief introduction to some of your recent events where you've been noted, or what you're promoting, and then a feature or 2, and then a follow-up, which is usually another invitation to buy, or more about, sometimes people even put testimonials in their e-zine. Again, you have to test what works for you and what you enjoy doing. I personally don't enjoy all that. I want to caution you, my very first e-zine was for my career site, and I had all kinds of stuff. I had a quote of the day, and I had stuff about me, and I had all kinds of features, and it worked. People liked it, but they would write to me as if I were a good friend and not a potential source of help. They didn't see me as someone who was selling. They saw me as a buddy. That's not good. That's why I don't do that anymore. So you have to see what works for you. And some people, on the other hand, love the buddy approach, and they say, I feel like you're my friend. I want to hire you. You have to see what happens. Generally, your e-zine is a combination of features plus selling. You also have to send out solo messages. And I say have to. I can't imagine not having to do this. Because a solo message is something you send that is not an e-zine, it's not part of a pattern, but it usually is a sales message. And what this means is you are training readers to get sales messages from you. So you're training them to get messages so that they realize you're not in this for love, it's for that you have a reason. You might also have no sales messages, which are very effective. No sales messages are those where you may just have a tip. I know one very successful marketer who only sends out no sales messages. He just has a tip every single day, 5 days a week. I know someone else who sends one out periodically, and it works. So this is very powerful, and it's something you may want to do. Now, here are 2 templates for your opt-in page. This is a page that is like a sales page. You'll notice it looks a lot like a sales page. If it were going to be a sales page, you'd make it longer, you'd modify it, almost always longer, but you're really selling. You're selling your freebie. So notice you have a headline, usually in red or maroon, with H1 or H2 tags, present tense, long or short. We could do a whole course on headlines, and maybe we will. You have a short paragraph summarizing. You have bullet points, and you have at the bottom you have your sign-up box. Where notice I've got a couple things here. We talked about bullet forms. They should be parallel, and I've got some directions here. Some people are violating the odd numbers, but they work pretty well, and I recommend some kind of an arrow. And notice here we have give me my report. I recommend you not use the submit that is the default with most forms. Here's another more contemporary variation that a lot of people are using. This is for a call, but it could be for anything. It could be for if you modify it. But what we've got is the opt-in goes there, but notice we've got here just a few bullet points on the left, an opening statement, some bullet points, summary about how, wow, these are really good benefits, I can't wait, and then register for call and recording. Then you have a place to sign up. But the key part of this is that you have a limited amount of text on the left with lots of white space, and on the right you have a place to register right up at eye level at the top of the page, definitely above the fold. Very powerful. So I hope I've given you some things to think about for your opt-in system. Your assignment is to create a draft of your opt-in page, draft your first autoresponder, and share. Thanks for joining me on this adventure, and I'll be talking to you soon, hopefully at another course or a one-to-one session. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining me.